The first time I realized my relationship was over, I was standing in our condo kitchen with a damp dish towel in my hands, staring at a number on a screen like it was a typo that would fix itself if I blinked enough. Tessa leaned against the counter in her scrubs, arms crossed, eyes hard and tired at the same time. She didn't look guilty. She looked annoyed, like I had interrupted her day with something small and inconvenient. "Don't act like this," she said. "It's not a big deal, it's handled." I looked at her, then back at the screen, then at her again. My chest felt calm in a strange way, like my body had already decided it wasn't going to fight. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just said, "Okay." Hey friends, please like this video and leave a comment with your impressions. This will be a great help. Thank you. We never tire of reminding you, it's all thanks to you. I'm Graham, I'm 41. I work for the city water department in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm not a flashy guy. I like schedules. I like receipts. I like knowing what's coming next and having enough in savings to handle it when it shows up anyway. I met Tessa when I was 37. She was 35 then, and she managed the front office at a dental practice near Old Town. On our first date, she laughed in this easy way, like she'd been holding her breath all day and finally let it go. She asked questions. She listened. She told me about her goal to go back to school and get certified in billing and compliance, because dental offices are a mess and someone has to keep them from burning down. When you're my age, you don't fall for fantasy. You fall for steady. Tessa felt steady. She seemed proud of her work. She talked about paying off her car early. She told me she hated debt. That mattered to me. A year into dating, my lease ended and I decided to buy a place. I'd saved for years. A modest condo, 2-bed, 2-bath, nothing fancy, HOA rules that felt like someone's hobby. Beige walls, community mailbox, a small patio where I could grill and watch the sky go pink at sunset. I put it in my name because it was my down payment and my mortgage. We talked about marriage someday, but neither of us was rushing. Tessa moved in with her furniture, her plants, and a whole shelf of mugs that had little sayings on them like "Life is short, buy the shoes." We built a life that looked good from the outside. Morning coffee, walks in the evening when the heat finally backed off, Sundays at the grocery store, her pushing the cart and picking up things I never would, like fancy yogurt and flowers, because it makes the kitchen feel happy. We hosted my sister Denise for dinner sometimes. Denise is a paralegal, the kind of person who reads the fine print because she genuinely enjoys it. She liked Tessa at first. Everyone did. If you asked me back then what our biggest issue was, I would have said nothing major. We had normal couple stuff. She left cabinet doors open. I folded towels like a robot. She wanted more throw pillows. I didn't understand why a couch needed 5 pillows that nobody used. But when I look back now, the red flags were there. They just didn't come in a neat line. They came like little paper cuts, easy to ignore until you look down and realize you're bleeding. The first red flag was how quickly money talk turned into mood talk. If I brought up budgeting, she didn't argue facts. She argued feelings. Why are you being tense? Why can't you just relax? You always act like the world is ending. It was never about numbers with her. It was about whether my attention was on her or on the numbers. The second red flag was the packages. We started getting deliveries almost every day. Shoes, skincare, random home decor. Once a huge box with a standing mirror she said she found on sale and couldn't pass up. She'd laugh and say, it was basically free, like sales erase spending. The third red flag was the way she talked about paperless statements. I'm a paper guy. I don't need piles of mail, but I like having records. Tessa started insisting we go paperless for the environment. She was oddly intense about it. She'd de-grab envelopes from the mailbox before I saw them and toss them on the counter like they were junk. It's just ads, she'd say, too quick. The fourth red flag was how she handled shared expenses. We agreed early on that since the condo and mortgage were mine, she'd pay a set amount each month for her share of utilities and groceries. She said she liked that because it was simple. For a while it worked. Then the payments started coming late, not by much at first. 2 days, a week. She'd always have a reason. Payroll glitch, bank app down. I'll do it tonight, babe. And if I asked again, I'd get the sigh, the look. The feeling that I was the nag. The fifth red flag was her phone. Not in a cheating way, at least not at first. More like a constant low-level secrecy. She started taking calls on the patio. If I walked out, she'd lower her voice. She'd de-angle the screen away even when she was just scrolling. Once I asked her who she was texting and she said, nobody, in the same tone you use for don't ask me that. I told myself it was stress, work, family, everyone has seasons. Then there was Caleb. Caleb wasn't some mysterious name I dug up through snooping. He was someone I knew about because Tessa told me about him early on, almost like she was proud of how grown-up she was about her past. He was her ex from years ago. They'd lived together for a while. It ended badly, she said. He was charming, she said, but unreliable. The type who always had a plan that never happened. She told me, I'm done with that. I want real. So when his name started popping up again, it wasn't a secret that he existed. The question was why he was suddenly back in her orbit. The first time she mentioned him in years was on a Tuesday night in August. We were eating leftovers at the kitchen counter. She said, almost casually, Caleb messaged me. He's in town. I looked up. Why is he messaging you? She shrugged. He saw my profile picture. He wanted to say hi. It's nothing. It's never nothing, Denise would have said if she'd been there. I said okay, because I didn't want to be the jealous guy. Tessa smiled like she'd won some small battle and went right back to eating. After that, his name drifted into our house more often. Caleb is doing better. Caleb is trying to get his life together. Caleb is struggling. It was always framed like she was being kind, like she was being mature, like she was the stable person doing a good deed. One night she said, he doesn't have anyone. I said, he's not your responsibility. She gave me that look, the one that said I didn't understand compassion. I'm not doing anything wrong, she said. I didn't fight. I didn't want to be the guy who polices who his partner talks to. I wanted to trust the person I lived with. I did trust her. Until the bank alert. It happened on a Saturday morning in late September, the kind of morning where the air is still warm but the light is softer. We had no plans. Tessa was still asleep. I was in the kitchen making coffee, the same routine I always had. The iPad sat on the counter on its little stand. We used it for recipes, grocery lists, streaming music. It was synced to our shared household email because it was easier for deliveries and HOA notices and all that boring adult stuff. A little banner slid across the top of the screen. Low balance alert. My first thought was that it was a glitch. We weren't rich, but we weren't low balance people. I tapped it without thinking. It opened the bank app, the joint checking account we used for utilities and groceries, the one my paycheck fed into because my job was steady and my direct deposit was already set up there years ago. I had access, I always had. That's why we made it a joint account in the first place. The balance was a fraction of what it should have been. I stared at it for a full 10 seconds like my eyes could argue with it. Then I opened the transaction list. There it was, a transfer out, not a normal bill, not APS, not the HOA, not the grocery store. A Zelle payment. $1,850. To a name I recognized immediately. Caleb R. My coffee maker clicked off behind me. The smell of fresh coffee filled the kitchen, and I remember thinking how wrong it felt that something comforting was happening at the same time as something sick. I scrolled. Another Zelle, $900, another $500, another $300. All within the last 6 weeks. There were also charges I didn't recognize, a cash advance fee, a payday loan company, a membership that looked like some kind of subscription, multiple Uber rides to places across town at odd hours. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. I felt cold but steady, like the part of me that loves procedures had taken over. I didn't wake her up, not yet. Instead, I did what I always do when something doesn't make sense. I gathered facts. I opened the joint email. I searched loan. I searched past due. I searched payment. The results came up like a trail of breadcrumbs someone had tried to sweep away, but didn't get all of them. There were emails from a lender I'd never heard of. Welcome to your new line of credit. Another, your payment is due. Another, your payment is late. Most of them were addressed to Tessa, but the email was our shared household email, the one that pinged the iPad, the one she insisted on using for everything important. I opened one. It had a statement attached, her name, her information, a balance that made my stomach tighten. Then I found something worse. An email confirmation for an authorized user added to a credit card. Authorized user, Caleb R. I sat on the kitchen stool and stared at the screen, my coffee untouched. The house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. It's strange how betrayal can feel when it's not about bodies. When it's about money, it's not a dramatic punch. It's a slow understanding that someone has been reaching into your pocket while looking you in the face. I didn't confront her right then, not yet. I screenshotted the transactions. I downloaded the statements. I forwarded the lender emails to my personal work email, the one Tessa didn't have access to. Then I printed the last 2 months of bank activity on the small printer in the second bedroom. The paper slid out warm, with neat lines of dates and amounts and names. That's neat. Lawful, clear, undeniable. Then I went back to the kitchen and poured my coffee like it was any other day. When Tessa came out around 10, she looked fresh and relaxed, hair twisted up, wearing one of my t-shirts like it belonged to her. She kissed my cheek, morning. I said morning. She opened the fridge. Do we have eggs? I watched her like I was watching a stranger act out a role. I waited until she sat down with her bowl of cereal. Then I slid my phone across the counter to her. The screen was on the Zelle transaction list. She glanced at it, her eyes flicked once, twice, then she pushed the phone back like it was dirty. It's not what you think, she said fast. That's a lot of money, I said. My voice stayed even. She exhaled hard. He needed help. You sent him money from our account. She rolled her eyes like I was missing the point on purpose. We live together. It's basically our money. I nodded slowly, and the credit card. Her mouth tightened. It's temporary. Why is he an authorized user? She leaned forward, lowering her voice as if volume could change reality. Because he can't get one on his own right now. He's trying. He's in a program. He needs gas and food. I'm not going to let him starve. You're paying for your ex, I said, still calm. She shook her head, looking at me like I was being dramatic. You're acting like I slept with him. I didn't take the bait. I tapped the printed papers I'd set on the counter. I hadn't even realized I'd put them there, but I had. Neat stack, dates highlighted, the authorized user email on top. She saw them and her face changed. Not guilt, calculation. You printed my stuff, she said. It came to our email, I said, and the transfers came from our joint account. Her jaw clenched. This is controlling. I let a beat of silence sit between us, because I wanted her to hear how thin her argument sounded in the kitchen air. Then I said the line that ended it, not with drama, but with a simple boundary. I can't live with someone who lies to my face and uses my home like an ATM. She blinked like she hadn't expected that. You're seriously doing this over money? She asked. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't list every charge. I didn't argue about helping versus enabling. I didn't mention how the utilities were late, how the packages kept arriving, how she'd been grabbing the mail too fast. I just said yes. Her eyes went wet fast like a switch. So you're just going to throw me out. I'm going to handle this legally, I said, and calmly. That's when she said it, the thing that made my okay from earlier feel like the only correct response. You make more than me, she snapped. You'll be fine, don't be selfish. I looked at her and I felt something settle, not anger, clarity. Okay, I said again, and she looked confused, because okay is a door closing softly. I went into the second bedroom and shut the door, not to punish her, to breathe and think. Then I made the plans. First, I moved my direct deposit. I did it from my work portal that day, sitting at the little desk in the second bedroom with the door locked. New account, new routing number. I chose a credit union I'd used years ago and reopened my old checking. Simple. Second, I protected my credit. I pulled my reports. I placed a freeze. I didn't accuse her of opening anything in my name because I didn't yet have proof of that, and I wasn't going to guess. I just made it impossible for new accounts to appear without me knowing. Third, I separated the joint account. I didn't empty it. I didn't play games. I transferred only my portion of funds that were clearly mine, leaving enough to cover current bills and a cushion. Then I removed overdraft links and turned off automatic transfers. I documented what I did and why, in case anyone ever questioned it. Fourth, I called my sister Denise. I didn't tell her the whole story in an emotional dump. I told her the facts. She sent money from the joint account to her ex, I said. A lot. There are loan emails. He's an authorized user on her card. I need to know how to do this clean. Denise was quiet for a second. Then she said, I'm proud of you for staying calm. Next step is a consult. Landlord-tenant rules apply even if you own the place and she lives there. Yeah, I said. I'll text you a couple attorney names, she said. Do not change locks, do not touch her stuff, do everything by the book. That sounded like music to me. On Monday, I took a half day and met with a local attorney Denise recommended. His name was Paul Keating. He had gray hair and a simple office. No intimidation, just practicality. I brought the printed receipts and my condo paperwork. I told him I wasn't trying to ruin anyone. I just wanted my finances and home safe. Paul looked at the documents and nodded slowly. You're doing the right thing by documenting, he said. You can give her proper written notice to vacate. 30 days is standard here. We'll draft it. Keep communication in writing as much as possible. What about the joint account? I asked. You can separate your finances, he said. Just don't take her personal funds. Keep a record. I have records, I said. He gave a small smile like he'd heard that before. Of course you do. We drafted a notice, clear language, date, deadline, my signature. His office notarized it, which felt like putting a clean seal on something messy. That night, I came home with the notice in a folder. Tessa was on the couch, scrolling on her phone, acting like we were in some weird pause where she could wait me out. I sat across from her, put the folder on the coffee table, and slid it toward her. What's that? She asked. A notice to vacate, I said. 30 days, you have time to find a place. Her face went tight. You can't do this. I can, I said, and I am. She picked up the papers and scanned them, eyes moving fast. Her hands shook a little now, not from sadness, from losing control. This is extreme, she said. It's not, I said, it's clean. She looked up at me like she wanted a fight, like she wanted me to shout so she could tell herself I was the bad guy. I stayed quiet. After a few seconds, she threw the papers onto the table. Where am I supposed to go? That's your choice, I said. If you want, I'll pay for a storage unit for 60 days so you can move your things in stages. I'll also transfer the electric account into my name only and keep it on. You won't be without power while you pack. She stared at me. Why are you being so robotic? Because this is serious, I said, and I'm not going to scream. I'm going to solve the problem. That night she cried loud enough for the neighbors to probably hear through the shared wall. I stayed in the second bedroom with the door shut. I didn't gloat. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. The next day, the flying monkeys started. It began with Joy, one of Tessa's coworkers. I knew Joy because she'd come over once for a quick drink after work, a woman with a loud laugh and a habit of calling everyone sweetie. She texted me a long message about how Tessa was heartbroken and how I was overreacting and how you don't throw away a relationship over a mistake. I replied with one sentence. This is between me and Tessa. Please don't contact me again. Then I blocked the number. After that, it was Tessa's cousin, a voicemail calling me cold, then her aunt, then someone I didn't even know, telling me that real men provide. I didn't argue, I didn't defend, I didn't try to convince anyone of anything. I made a folder on my phone called Tessa, saved screenshots, and let the noise prove exactly why my boundary mattered. Tessa tried a different approach after that. One night she knocked on the second bedroom door and spoke softly, like she was a different person. Graham, she said, can we talk? I opened the door a crack. I didn't invite her in. She looked like she'd been practicing, eyes damp, voice gentle. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't realize how it looked. I should have told you. I waited. I wanted to help him, she continued. But you're right, I should have talked to you. I'll cut him off. I watched her face closely. There was no real understanding there, just negotiation. Okay, I said. Her eyes brightened like she thought that meant forgiveness. I added, the notice still stands. Her expression snapped. Are you kidding me? I'm not, I said. So I say sorry and it means nothing, she demanded. It means you said sorry, I said. It doesn't rebuild trust. She scoffed. You're acting like I committed a crime. I didn't take the bait. I'm acting like my finances were used without my consent, I said, and my home was treated like a safety net for choices I wasn't part of. She stared at me, breathing hard, then went back to the living room and slammed a cabinet door on the way, as if a cabinet could carry her anger for her. Over the next 2 weeks, she swung between moods. Some mornings she was sweet, making coffee like nothing happened. Some nights she was icy, ignoring me like I was furniture. Once she tried to guilt me by mentioning marriage plans we talked about in passing. "We were going to build a life," she said, voice trembling. "We were," I said, "but you made choices that changed that." She tried to rewrite it, too. "It was never that much money," she said once. I didn't argue, I just slid the printed bank statements across the table. The neat lines did the talking for me. The moving part started slower than I expected. She didn't have a plan. That was another thing I learned. Tessa had always been good at talking about plans, but when it came time to execute, she floated and waited for someone else to catch her. On day 15, I came home to find a man on my patio. He was leaning on the railing like he belonged there, smoking, looking out at the parking lot. Mid-30s, baseball cap, a vibe of casual trouble. Caleb. The sight of him didn't make me angry. It made me feel like my stomach had dropped through a trapdoor, not because I was scared, because it confirmed everything. I stepped outside. "Can I help you?" He turned, slow smile, like he thought he had charm to spare. "You Graham." "Yes," I said. "Tessa said you and her are having a little misunderstanding," he said, like we were negotiating a car sale. "I'm just here to talk man-to-man." I kept my voice even. "You're trespassing. This is my property. You need to leave." He laughed once. "Come on, no need to be like that." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten him. I didn't step closer. I just pulled out my phone and held it up, not even dialing yet. "I'm going to call the non-emergency number and report an unwanted person on my property," I said. "Please leave now." His smile faded. He looked past me into the condo, maybe hoping Tessa would come rescue him. She appeared in the doorway a second later, face tight. "Graham, stop, he's just..." "Not welcome," I said. Caleb lifted his hands like I was the unreasonable one. "Fine man, I'm going." He walked away down the path, slow like he wanted to leave a last impression. Tessa hissed, "You embarrassed me." I looked at her, and that sentence told me she still didn't get it. "You brought your ex to my home while you're under notice to leave," I said. "That's not embarrassment, that's consequence." She glared. "He was helping me look at apartments." "That's a lie," I said, still calm. Her face flushed. "You don't know what you're talking about." I didn't argue further. I walked inside and shut the door. Then I emailed my attorney. Her ex showed up at property uninvited. I told him to leave. "She is escalating. Advise next step." Paul replied within an hour. "Continue documenting. Do not engage. If unwanted visitors return, call non-emergency. You are handling correctly." So I kept doing what calm people do. I stayed on the rails. I set up a storage unit account in my name at a nearby facility and prepaid 2 months like I said I would. I texted Tessa the access code and the address. "Storage unit is available for your belongings. Paid through November 30. I scheduled utility changes. I moved subscriptions into my name only. I changed passwords on my personal accounts, not the shared email, because that one had her stuff in it too, and I wasn't going to play games. I simply removed my cards from any services I could and replaced them with a new one tied to my new account. I also started taking pictures of the condo, room by room, just in case, not to accuse her, to protect myself if something got broken, and later the story became, Graham destroyed everything. The clean exit scene didn't happen with fireworks, it happened with boxes. On day 28, I came home from work and saw her car trunk open in the parking lot. The air smelled like dust and hot asphalt. She was carrying a box of kitchen items, moving slow like she wanted me to ask her to stop. I didn't. Inside, the condo looked stripped in spots. Her throw pillows gone, the mugs gone, the plants gone, the hallway closet half empty. She stood in the living room with her arms crossed. "So this is it," she said. "This is it," I agreed. She looked around like she wanted to make me feel the weight of what I was losing. "You're really going to be alone in here," she said, like loneliness was a punishment. I didn't correct her. I didn't explain that peace isn't loneliness. I didn't tell her I'd rather eat dinner in silence than live in a house where the numbers don't add up. I just said I'll walk through with you when you're ready. We'll check the rooms, then I'll take the keys. Her eyes narrowed. You're treating me like a tenant. I'm treating this like reality, I said. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it, maybe because there wasn't a good argument left. We walked through the condo slowly. She pointed out things she was taking. I nodded. I didn't contest small items. Towels, dishes, the air fryer she'd bought. None of it was worth turning the moment into a fight. When we got to the second bedroom, she paused. That room had been my boundary zone for a month, my quiet place, my refusal to be pulled into her storm. She looked at the bed. You slept in here like I was some stranger. I met her eyes. You made choices like I was some stranger, I said. That was the closest I came to a hard line, and it landed because it was true and I didn't decorate it. At the front door, she reached into her purse and dropped a key ring into my palm. The metal felt cool. She didn't leave a dramatic note. She didn't apologize again. She just stood there, eyes glassy, waiting for me to say something that would soften it. I said, I hope you get the help you need. She laughed through her nose. You mean I hope you learn my lesson? I didn't respond. She walked out. Her footsteps down the hallway sounded normal. That was the strangest part. A whole relationship ending, and the sound was just shoes on tile. After she left, I locked the door and stood there for a long minute, hands still on the deadbolt. Then I did something simple. I opened every window for 10 minutes, letting the outside air push through the rooms like a reset. The fallout kept coming, but it changed shape. Tessa started telling people a new story. At first it was Graham kicked me out. Then it became Graham was controlling. Then it evolved into Graham never loved me. The narrative shifted depending on who she was talking to, like she was trying on outfits until one fit. I heard about it through Denise, who heard it through family channels. Denise didn't gossip, she just kept me aware. She's saying you were financially abusive, Denise told me one evening on the phone. I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because it was so upside down it could have been a joke. She drained a joint account to pay her ex, I said. I know, Denise said. I'm just telling you because if it escalates, you keep your records. Do not respond publicly. I won't, I said. Then came the calls from unknown numbers, the emails, the long texts from Tessa herself, cycling through anger and sadness and nostalgia. One night she wrote, I can't believe you threw me away, after everything. I typed a reply, then deleted it, typed again, deleted again. Finally, I sent one message. I will communicate only by email about practical matters. Please do not come to the condo. Take care. Then I stopped. 2 weeks later, the joint account showed a final sting, another attempted transfer. It failed because the balance wasn't there and overdraft was off. A week after that, I got a letter in the mail, not addressed to me, but to Tessa, forwarded from her new address. It was from the credit card company. It mentioned a past due balance and that an authorized user had been removed. She'd taken Caleb off after all, not because she understood, because the system forced her to. That was the karma, not anything I did, just reality arriving at her door like a bill. Time passed, the condo became quiet in a way that felt clean, not empty. I repainted the bedroom walls a light gray. I bought one plant for the kitchen, not a whole jungle, just one. I set up my budget again and watched the numbers stabilize like a heart rate returning to normal. I also went to counseling, because calm doesn't mean untouched. It just means you choose not to bleed on other people. My counselor asked me why I stayed as long as I did. I thought about it and said, because she made me feel like asking questions was the problem. My counselor nodded like she'd heard that 1,000 times. 3 months later, in early January, the HOA held its annual meeting in the little clubhouse by the pool. It was the kind of meeting where people argue about landscaping and parking passes like it's the Supreme Court. I went because it mattered to me to stay involved. It was my home. I wasn't going to disappear from my own life. The room smelled like coffee and cheap pastries, folding chairs, a whiteboard with agenda items. I sat near the back with Marlon, my neighbor, a retired Navy guy who'd become my unexpected friend during the whole mess. He'd seen Tessa move out. He'd seen Caleb on the patio that day, too, from his own window. You good? Marlon asked quietly. I'm good, I said. Halfway through the meeting, During a debate about pool hours, the door opened. Tessa walked in. She wasn't there as an owner. She didn't live here anymore. She wasn't on the HOA records. She had no reason to be there except one. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on me. For a second, I felt that old instinct to brace for impact. Then I reminded myself, I'm sitting in a public room, surrounded by people doing something normal. I'm not trapped. I'm not back in the kitchen. I'm not holding a dish towel pretending a number isn't real. Tessa walked down the aisle and stopped by my row. Marlon shifted slightly, not aggressive, just present. Tessa leaned in. Can we talk? She whispered. I didn't stand. I didn't make a scene. I kept my voice low and steady. No, I said, this isn't the place. Her eyes flashed. You always do this. You always act like you're above it. I looked at her, calm as stone. If you need to communicate, email me, I said. Otherwise, please leave me alone. People nearby started glancing over. The HOA president paused mid-sentence. Tessa realized she didn't have the stage she wanted. She straightened up, face tight, and said louder, fine. Then she turned and walked out, heels clicking, like she wanted the sound to be her last word. The meeting resumed, the room settled. Someone made a joke about the pool hours again. Life went on. Afterward, Marlon clapped my shoulder. You handled that clean, he said. I nodded. That's the point, I said. On the drive home, the desert sky was pale and wide, the sun low. I pulled into my parking spot and sat for a minute, engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel. There was no thrill, no victory speech, just quiet. I thought about how the story could be told if I wanted to make it dramatic, the cheating angle people expect, the shouting, the revenge, the slam-the-door moment. But my real ending was simpler. I noticed the air smelled like winter for the first time all year. I carried a grocery bag inside. I set it on the counter. I turned on the light in the kitchen, and the room looked like mine again. I didn't get a perfect apology. I didn't get closure in the way movies sell it. I got something better. I got my life back, with numbers that made sense, a home that felt safe, and the kind of peace you only earn when you choose boundaries over bargaining. And if I ever hear someone say, it's not a big deal, it's handled, I'll remember exactly how that sounded in my kitchen. Then I'll do what I did that day. I'll look at the receipt. And I'll choose myself.